What I have learnt over the time being a therapist is reconnection, because a lot of times people might live in the same home, but they live past each other because, work, they might have sort of different working hours, and then work is stressful. And the last thing they want to do is have that connection with each other at the end of a long work day. So it is wonderful to see people come into spa for a couples treatment specifically and request to be in the same room with their partner. And I think that they are really searching for that time to reconnect and just have a private space in which to do that too. Yeah. So away from the kids and the other responsibilities and the running around, and really just letting go and relaxing and finding each other again.
Welcome to Real Relationships, a real and honest podcast about the inside world of working with close relationships. I'm Alona Serpentine, a couples therapist, a sex therapist, and a relationship educator. Here, I draw the curtain on how close relationships work, interview other relationship professionals, share behind-the-scenes stories from my own practice, and also invite couples, families, and individuals of all kinds to speak about their journey and their real relationships. We as humans cannot live without others. This is why I hope that by sharing the stories and reality-tested information from real professionals and real clients, more people will enjoy fulfilling, supporting, and successful relationships. If you want to have one of those, or make your existing ones even better, and I can't imagine you are not, tune into our episodes released twice a month on Thursdays. And to stay up to date with what we have to share, subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform or join our Facebook group, Real Relationships. Stay tuned and stay real. So I have a pleasure to interview today Delyse from Sunset Spa, which is an exclusive spa retreat in Mount Eliza. And I must say, when I've been thinking about guests for my podcasts, I went through a whole range of different professionals who typically work with relationships. And I thought obviously of family lawyers, of maybe even mediators, maybe obviously counseling professionals and family professionals. But then when I met Delyse, and Delyse told me that she provides treatments not just for individuals, but also for couples, I got really curious, especially with my background and my work as a sex therapist. I'm fully on board with being comfortable in your body and in helping couples reconnect not only emotionally or mentally, but also physically in their bodies. So I thought it's probably going to be very interesting to talk to Delyse and see what she thinks about how couples and how relationships in general can benefit from spa treatments such as massages or maybe some papering treatments. So basically, this is why I decided to talk to Delyse. And yes, welcome, Delyse.
Thank you.
As always, I really like not only talk about what you do professionally, but also who you are as a person, to give our listeners an opportunities to actually peek behind those professional curtains. So what can you tell us about yourself, Delyse?
I've been a therapist now for well over 20 years, and it is my absolute passion. It is what I do all day, every day when I'm at work. But I just love working with people and seeing that transformation from when people come in stressed out, anxious, a little bit nervous, some of them, because it might be their first time having a spa treatment, to really letting go and feeling comfortable and being transformed by the end of the treatment. So that's why I'm still doing what I'm doing.
And it sounds like you've been doing that for a while now, Delyse.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I've worked pretty much all over the world as well. So it has been fantastic to see different cultures and how they sort of incorporate self-care into their everyday life. So I've learned a lot over the years.
Would you mind sharing what cultures and what countries and what's that geographical journey has been for you?
Yeah, well, mainly when I finished my studies in South Africa, I went and worked on board cruise ships.
Oh, wow.
Which is amazing because it really teaches you about being a people person and about communicating, because you have no choice but to open yourself up. And that just makes people feel, I think, that little bit more comfortable opening up as well. So, yeah, it worked with all sorts of cultures on board.
How long?
3 years I did that for. Yeah. Very busy. You need to be physically fit and mentally fit as well. But I wouldn't change it for the world, because I think that's where I learned a lot of my skills, not only sort of my people skills, but also my hands-on skills, so that I can treat different people at different stages, if I can put it that way. Then went back to South Africa and then was land-based for a while before moving to Australia. So,
Wow. Oh, that's so fascinating. I really want to ask more questions about work on cruise ships, and I'm sure you have so many stories to share. Was it any specific region where you were sailing?
mainly around America. Yeah, so did the Mexican Riviera, did sort of Alaska, Hawaii, we did that run, and then Southern and Western Caribbean as well. So, yeah. Absolutely
Fascinating.
amazing.
Oh my gosh, I'm jealous. I'm really, really jealous. I've never been on a cruise ship before, by the way, but absolutely. Oh my God, 3 years on cruise ships.
3 years. I had to fight the seasickness, believe it or not.
What?
So I was terribly seasick for the first couple of months on board, and then my body got used to it, and then it was fine after. But that was also very interesting.
Well, I can imagine trying to keep the seasickness in while giving a treatment to someone.
Trying to give a treatment to someone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well done.
Good.
Amazing. And then you arrived in Australia, and how has your therapeutic journey been here?
I've had the opportunity to work with people from a lot of different modalities. So physiotherapists, myotherapists, remedial therapists, and that has been wonderful because it has taught me, because that's what we do as therapists. We learn from each other constantly. So I've really, upped my skills as far as my treatment delivery, because I've learned from those professionals around me as well. So, and it's a continuous learning. It never ends. So it keeps us going.
Anyone who works with people probably knows that quite well, that people constantly evolve. We always have to learn something, or maybe rediscover things that we learned in the past and then we discarded. And now we suddenly realize that we shouldn't have discarded them, and it's actually quite useful.
Yes, exactly. And also giving the opportunity to actually teach the next person too. So it's wonderful to see, young graduates sort of freshly coming out of a college or out of a training school, but still needing a lot of guidance as to how to deliver treatments.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then obviously your experience, which is quite multifaceted and quite rich as well, and not only from one culture, but from various cultures. I can imagine how they would be so hungry for your knowledge as well. Wow.
Yes.
I'm feeling very privileged talking to you, Delyse. This is amazing. And I guess just to jump into the relationship space of which is the whole podcast is about, it's the real relationships. So we want to really understand relationships and all their types and natures and all sorts, basically, of relationships. And if I just start with a very broad question, like how can you put, let's say, spa and relationships in one sentence in your world? What's the connection between relationships and a spa from your experience?
I think from what I have learnt over the time being a therapist is reconnection, because a lot of times people might live in the same home, but they live past each other. Because, work, they might have sort of different working hours, and then work is stressful. And the last thing they want to do is have that connection with each other at the end of a long work day. So it is wonderful to see people come into spa for a couple's treatment specifically and request to be in the same room with their partner. And I think that they are really searching for that time to reconnect and just have a private space in which to do that too. Yeah. So away from, the kids and the other responsibilities and the running around, and really just letting go and relaxing and finding each other again.
Right. So in a way, when they book for a couples treatment, they have an opportunity to recreate that space in which they are sharing an experience, in which they are enjoying an experience as well, and that they can talk about afterwards. So it's like that, what we talk in couples therapy about, it's the creation of those bonding moments that's emotionally connecting, and those that are memorable as well. Because it's not like you're going for a spa treatment every day. I don't know, maybe somebody is doing that.
It's very privileged.
It's very privileged indeed. So for most couples, I can imagine going to a spa together. It's a little bit like a mini adventure of sorts. And have you noticed how people feel when they come to couples treatments? Maybe there is something that is changing for them, or maybe you just notice subtle differences, how it is before coming in and after coming in.
Mainly for the male partners or the husbands or the boyfriends coming in, it is actually quite interesting because they'll come in and say, oh, she made me do it, and point to the partner.
So no, definitely wasn't my choice.
This is not my choice. I didn't necessarily want to be here.
Like, it's so wonderful. But boys are quite hesitant.
Well, this is it. And for some, spa is still very much a female-dominated space, or so they think.
So it's a bit of a stereotype, a bit of a cliche, which is not necessarily the case, I can imagine. Don't boys have bodies too?
Absolutely. We take on that challenge. As therapists, we absolutely love having someone come in and go, oh, I didn't really want to be here. Or even your first timer that might be extremely anxious and nervous because they're going to be half naked under just a towel and have a complete stranger touch their body. It can make them feel very apprehensive and almost like it's going to be invasive. But then to really make sure that they're feeling nice and comfortable on the table, to know that you are there to look after them and to nurture them.
How do you do that, Delyse? How do you, maybe it's not only for anxious males who are being dragged into spa by their partners, but in general, like, I'm very curious about that. How do you make sure that a person, because it is a very private space and you're not somebody they know, typically you're a stranger. What's the magic? How can you get them to trust you and to relax?
I think it's all about the first impression. And as soon as what you connect with the person and reassure them that they are in a safe space, and then doing a complete and thorough consultation with them as well. Literally going through with them step by step what the treatment is going to entail and asking them too what they're going to be comfortable with.
So you're actually seeking consent.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
And no unexpected moves, so to say.
Yes, no.
You're very clear.
Not.
What are we going to do?
What are we going to do? But as we're working on the body, if we do find that there might be another area that we could work on that will benefit the end results, we'll check in again and say, maybe I should work on your calves because they're really tight. I know you don't really like your legs worked on, but is it okay if I just give them at least 5 minutes? And by then, people are sort of nice and relaxed and they then trust you enough to open up and go, okay, we'll take it that little bit further. But you don't invade their privacy, so to speak. So yes, it is all about consent and reassurance.
Reassurance, and also very clearly stating what is going to happen so that they trust you, rather than, oh, you didn't tell me that you're going to touch me here, for example, and I'm quite sensitive in that spot. I can totally understand why they would be anxious, and I also can totally understand how it can be quite hard for a therapist to navigate that tricky area. It's like, okay, how do we get quite close to each other without still keeping all our boundaries in place? Yeah,
absolutely.
Going back to, because I hijacked that a little bit, the initial conversation about when you're saying when females often bring their male partners and how they feel before and after. And you said that initially they always say, it was not my idea. Yeah, I'm absolutely not here. And it can be also because they understand that this is a private space and often a therapist is a female as well. So in a way, they are signaling to you that I'm safe too. I'm not the one who was seeking anything. Really, it was my partner's idea, because I can imagine that lots of males are very much aware that there is a female-male dynamic in the room.
Absolutely. But it's, once again, I think it comes down to one's professionalism, and to let them know that, this treatment is a professional treatment. Nothing untoward is going to happen. And for them to know that they are welcome in the space. They're not the outsider coming in or the third wheel. They're there just as much to be looked after as what their partner is. So amazing how, I've had many, many males get off the table and say, yes, I'll be back for that. Or I can't believe that I waited so long to have a treatment.
Yeah.
So that's the ultimate prize for us as therapists at the end.
Absolutely. And you see that trust and the feeling of safety once they actually have had that experience, that initial icebreaker in a way. So it's like, okay, I can do this. This is okay. I'm safe. I'm not perceived as doing something strange or, untoward, as you said. It's actually interesting because my brother also came and saw you, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and he is a very male, if I can say it like this. He has lots of cultural stereotypes that he would not, for example, wear any bright colors because he thinks that they are not manly enough. And I remember I was offering to him to go and see you because he had a sore back and he was quite hesitant. And then eventually he went, and I spoke to him after the treatment, and he just said, beautiful technique. I felt very comfortable, very relaxed, and I could see it in him. He was so tense. It was actually just before he was going back to Europe, back from Australia. So he had a lot of stressful things to consider. It was not an easy moment in his life. And then I could see that even just after half an hour of being here, his whole nervous system completely relaxed. So yeah.
And that was amazing. I just wish I could have seen what magic I could have performed in an hour, if not longer. But yes, it was really good to see him just absolutely let go, because the first thing that changes once people are on the table and they are comfortable and they are starting to relax is their breath changes. So yeah.
How does it change to this?
A lot of us do a lot of breathing from the chest. So very shallow, short breaths. Once you start relaxing, you start breathing from the stomach. So your breath becomes a lot longer and a lot deeper. So yes, that's when a main indicator for us as therapists is to, right, I've hit the off switch. Yeah. This body is now completely relaxed, because your breathing changes into that nice and deep, slow breath. And then obviously sometimes becomes a bit of a snoring session on the table.
Oh, I'm totally guilty of that. 100%. That would be me snoring away.
And that's one thing that people always apologize for. And we say, listen, it's music to our ears. Then we know that we've really, massive compliment that we've really achieved what we set out to do.
Absolutely. Unbelievable. And as a couples therapist, we often deal with anxiety within a relationship, and anxiety is associated. And one of the signs of anxiety is when the breathing is very shallow. It's kind of where in that fight or flight state where we just can't let go. And all we are trying to do is to protect ourselves. And when we are in that state, it's very hard to listen. It's very hard to be present, and it's very hard to see your partner's point of view. So I can imagine that even if people come to you on their own and then they leave outside of that anxious state, actually being in a calmer, more present and listening space, it's also a gift for their partners when they come home, because suddenly
it's a different person.
it's a very different person, probably a nicer person rather than a running away person or a fighting person.
The beautiful thing too is to see how couples, when they leave the session, they're actually holding hands or hugging each other. They have really physically reconnected with each other because they're both in a much more relaxed headspace.
100%. I'm definitely going to be sending people over to you and saying, okay, if you're really struggling to have a good conversation, if you feel you're constantly stepping onto each other's toes, and you're so disconnected, like a couple that I saw yesterday. They're a beautiful couple that I've been knowing for quite a few years now. And I know they love each other deeply, but they just need to break that ice that they have grown between the two of them. And I can totally imagine that after coming and seeing you, Delyse, they probably would be much smoother with each other than they had been. I also know that in addition to couples treatments, you also teach couples how to provide treatments to themselves. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so this came about a couple of years ago when I realized that a lot of times people were on the table and saying, my partner doesn't know how to give me a massage. And I thought, well, here's an opportunity to actually get people to come in so that I can show them how to give each other a really nice treatment and how to use different techniques to achieve that, because 9 times out of 10, the ladies are going, he just sticks his thumb in for 5 minutes and that's it, and then he's done. And it hurts and it's not very comfortable and it's not really what I wanted. And the males are going, there's no pressure. She, once again, only for 5 minutes, and then she complains that her hands are sore. So really to get in and show them different techniques so that the ladies can get in there with forearms and elbows, for example, to get that pressure in, to go a little bit deeper, not hurting their hands. And for the males to learn, how to really be gentle but effective. On their partners. So, and it's really an amazing thing to see them really, because they'll come in all nervous and not really knowing what to expect, and then just, relaxing into the whole experience as well. And then being very excited to go home and try all these new things on each other when they get home. So
absolutely.
That's the end game.
Absolutely. And just give each other an opportunity to feel nurtured, to feel also quite, I guess, soothed by your partner. And who knows, that can lead to even more fun things afterwards.
Well, this is it. And I always say to them, make sure that the environment, you are setting the intention. So not just sitting in front of the TV and just giving each other a 5-minute shoulder rub, get the candles out, get the music going.
Maybe some aromatherapy.
Aromatherapy, definitely. Yes.
Set the scene, take the time. Yeah, we often call it in therapy, we need to create space. If you don't have space, that space is always very vulnerable to any intrusions from outside. So very important to create the space whichever way we do, and also for our minds, so that our minds can see, okay, this is different. This is not a work environment. This is not our typical family, busy kids environment. This is an environment where we reconnect, where we look after each other, just the two of us.
Yes, absolutely.
So I can imagine that some of the listeners probably are getting a little bit curious about learning couples massage, because I mentioned that to a few of my clients at the practice, and there was always like a very curious response to that. Oh, I really like the sound of it. So, but because many people are also a bit apprehensive, as you said, like they don't really know what to expect. What can they expect in a session like that where they're going to be learning couples massage?
That's one thing that I go through, is how to set that scene at home, and then just going through and reiterating that they need to be open and honest with each other as to what they are expecting from their partner, and the partner not just listening but hearing what is expected of them. And then once they're on the table, to gently guide them through a few different sort of very basic techniques. So, we're not going in there to fix anything, but really just to make sure that what their partner is looking for is what's achieved at the end of the day. And then I like to sort of give them a little bit of a write-up to take home with them. So in case they forget anything, which 9 times out of 10 they will by the time they step foot out the door. So they've got something, a reference point to go back to. So just really that communication to know, because 9 times out of 10, what I have found is that they don't actually know what their partner enjoys. And then they'll go, oh, I didn't know that you like your feet massaged, or I didn't know that you like a lighter touch or a firmer touch, or that you didn't like your scalp massaged. I just assumed that was the way to go.
That would be my reaction, but it's so true. We're all so different.
We're all so different. So it is about learning what your partner enjoys. And let's face it, if you receive something wonderful, you are going to be giving something wonderful too. So it's a win-win at the end of the day.
Amazing. I love this. If you receive something wonderful, you're more likely to give something wonderful.
Yes.
I must say, the way how you approach couples is not very different from how I work.
It sounds, like it would be. And I think definitely getting down to grassroots and that connection, which, yes, over sort of years of being together, sometimes couples drift apart.
But also about the communication.
And
ensuring that this is not just, yes, I'm telling you what I want, but also you're hearing what I want. Because we often struggle with that, even in couples therapy. We assume a lot of things, and there is always a perception distortion in a way. It's very hard for us to be 100% on the same page with our partner because we are very different. Yeah, I can hear you, but my mind can think about it differently from a different perspective to you that you're presenting. And one thing that we, for example, often teach, I would say pretty much 99% of the couples I work with, I teach is we always need to close that communicational loop. Give back feedback and say, okay, so you like me, for example, to massage your feet with this pressure rather than with this pressure. You prefer me when I do provide head massage rather than back massage, for example. So you kind of constantly feeding back what you heard just to make sure that you're on the same page.
Yes. And it also has a lot to do with meeting your partner where they're at that point in time too. So it might be, that they extremely stressed out and maybe they just want to hold your hand and they don't want you to be massaging their shoulders. So you also have to just check in and know that, you're meeting them and providing for them what they need at that point in time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And again, meeting your partner where they are at, not overwhelming them, and make sure that you're very aware that whatever they like or need is not necessarily what you would want to like. I would say that's kind of a general rule. If you think your partner would enjoy that, in many cases, it's actually the opposite the case. Yeah. Just thinking about that and talking and listening to you, Delyse, I actually had a thought that I haven't considered before. Because obviously we are opening people in a very vulnerable space. We are getting them out of that anxiety, which often has a protective purpose. Have you had experiences where people would get quite emotional as a result of the treatment?
Absolutely. Yes. A lot of times people do break down on the table and just let those emotions, and we invite that and we invite them just to let those emotions wash over them, because they might not have that opportunity at home, even though you would think that home is a safe space, but sometimes they just need to be in a space with someone that doesn't know the story, and is not going to judge them, or they would feel that they were being judged or criticize or analyze. I just want to let go and let those emotions come through. And yes, we really encourage that. So if I see that someone, starts becoming very teary, I just remind them this is the space in which you can do that. So please feel free. You're safe.
Yeah.
You can just see that burden has just been lifted. It's a very angelic look to the face after they've, come through whatever it is, whether it's grieving a lost one or sadness, anger, anxiety. They might have just had a massive argument with their partner or a friend or family member just before coming for a treatment. And it's nice, to see that people will feel that comfortable just to let go.
Yes. And it also, I think it's a great reminder that our body holds the emotions that we experience. And if we don't process them, let's say through talking about them or doing something about them, that emotion is still within your body. So once we are on the table, once with your professional assistance, you become more and more relaxed. It's normal. It's understandable how then suddenly your emotion starts coming to the surface and you start really experiencing them. And it can be a beautifully healing experience for people, very cleansing, very nurturing. And especially if they have somebody who has this very warm presence like you, Delyse, then of course they feel safe. So you're doing therapy as well, in the therapy sense.
In the therapy sense. Well, this is the other side of the coin really for us, yes, because sometimes people come in and they do share a lot more than what we were expecting them to share, which is fine as well. It is nice, for people to come in and feel that they know that what is shared within those four walls doesn't go any further. So they feel very comfortable.
Do they share much about their relationships?
Oh my gosh, Aliona. Absolutely. And this is where very early on in the piece, in years gone by, let's say 15, 20 years ago, men would not come into a beauty salon, into a spa. It was definitely just, this is for my wife, and I would encourage my clients coming in. I'd say to them, where's your husband? When is he coming for treatment? Oh, he would never come in. I said, well, have you asked? And I had quite a few of the partners actually coming in for treatment and going, oh, I didn't know that this is why my wife likes to come and spend time here. I'm like, and now you can too. And you've got to open their sort of mindset and the way that things are perceived. So it was really interesting back then when I first started within the industry because, men wouldn't be caught dead coming into a female, as they saw it, a female space. Maybe, I don't know, too much female hormones around or scared that they'd walk out with pink nails. But
well, nowadays I think it's very in.
It is. I have to remind myself that nowadays, yes, you do have to offer the nail polish to the males as well.
Absolutely.
Gender has really, within our industry, gender has really been
a barrier
out
in a way.
Yeah. It has been a barrier, but so many people are now discovering the wonderful results that they can achieve by coming in. So yes, just the other day I had a lady on the table and she's like, oh, I'm 40 years old. Please excuse me for never having a treatment. I'm like, no, this is very exciting.
Time to start a new life at 40.
Start a new life at 40 and just become absolutely addicted to having treatments done. Yeah, that human touch, I think, is, what we all crave. Yeah, whether we say it out loud or not. Yeah, the body language always speaks as well. So
yeah, absolutely. I'm 100% with you. I mean, this is the first contact that we experience. We experience touch, whether it's our mom, whether it's our dad, whether it's maybe a medical professional, but it's the first thing that we actually are able to feel before our brains are developed enough to understand the meaning of the words. We can feel the touch.
Yeah.
Delyse, just because you've been already so very generous, I just want to quickly ask you about who you are when you are not a therapist. What do you do outside of this wonderful space?
Oh, I think that even though I might close the door to the spa world when I go home, therapy is just in my blood. So I'm still mothering someone, being a mentor to someone, looking after, because that's what I really enjoy. So yeah, a lot of time spent with my fur babies. And
what fur babies do you have?
So I've got a budgie and a dog. Yeah, so the two of them get a lot of attention, and definitely spending time with friends, because I don't have much family here in Australia, sadly, but
I can relate.
Yes, yeah, but the friends that I have are family now, so I do look forward to spending time with friends. Yeah, so that's what I do outside.
So you continue being your nurturing self outside as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful, Delyse. Thank you so much. It was a real pleasure. And oh my gosh, I just learned so much again from hearing what you do. And again, it's amazing how we often have those very rigid ways of thinking about things, and we don't actually fully appreciate things that seem to be obvious. Like we think about spa, we think about massages. We don't actually see that this is another way of healing, maybe. And this is another way of looking after yourself and also after your relationships. So thank you for sharing that very important aspect of your work.
Well, thank you for allowing me the space in which to do so, Eliona. Hopefully more and more of the listeners will feel a lot more at ease coming in and just being looked after and healed and nurtured.
And that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Real Relationships podcast. For more reality-tested relationship information, visit our Facebook group, Real Relationships. Or if you have a question or a guest suggestion for me to interview next, email me at podcast@alionaserpentine.com.au. Stay tuned and stay real.